As I said when I ran for president, no one should be in jail just for using or possessing marijuana. It's already legal in many states, and criminal records for marijuana possession have led to needless barriers to employment, to housing, to educational opportunities. And that's before you address the racial disparities around who suffers the consequences. While white and black and brown people use marijuana at similar rates, black and brown people are arrested, prosecuted, and convicted at disproportionately higher rates. So today, I'm taking 3 steps to end this failed approach. First, I'm announcing a pardon for all prior federal offenses for the simple possession of marijuana. There are thousands of people who are convicted for marijuana possession who may be denied employment, housing, or educational opportunities as a result of that conviction. My pardon will remove this burden on them. Second, I'm calling on all governors to do the same for state marijuana possession offenses. Third, the federal government currently classifies marijuana as a Schedule I substance, the same as heroin and LSD, and more serious than fentanyl. It makes no sense. So I'm asking the Secretary of Health and Human Services and the Attorney General to initiate a process to review how marijuana is scheduled under federal law. Even as federal and local regulations of marijuana change, important limitations on trafficking, marketing, and underage sales should stay in place. Too many lives have been upended because of our failed approach to marijuana. It's time that we right these wrongs.
A lot going on there with President Biden talking about his new plans as far as decriminalizing, giving some pardons for folks that have been convicted of simple marijuana possession in the country. Something that has always kind of been in the works, has been talked about, but have we actually seen it to this degree or announced with this kind of depth and information behind it? Honestly, I think these are things that should have always been said before you even go forward with a policy. Say these truths even before you do it. The problem is once you say it, you have to do something about it, which is happening here. So we'll give him credit for that. But let's get to a little bit more about this, because the folks that have been convicted of these marijuana possessions also under federal law, he's looking for that. Also asking for governors to do it. The Schedule I issue with it, which again makes it more harmful according to authorities' eyes than fentanyl, which we talked about before. Fentanyl they're looking to put as a Schedule I, and there's some nuance and gray area behind that. But there was one particular group that was demanding action on this back when Biden was running for president, and they were talking about how they need this to be done. They were expressing more about their points of view and their demands here in this video.
When President Biden was running for office, he made a promise.
I think we should decriminalize marijuana, period. And I think anyone who has a record should be let out of jail, their records expunged, it be completely zeroed out.
And so we're gonna hold him to his promise, especially right now when we have this 2-tiered system of justice where if you're wealthy and if you're an older white male, you can profit from the cannabis industry, while many people of color and people from poor neighborhoods are still sitting in prison for doing the same thing.
I know that you care about justice and equity, Mr. President. I've served 14 years in prison for a nonviolent cannabis offense. I hope that you will have the courage and that you'll agree that this is enough and that you'll fulfill that promise.
Things like those 14-year prison sentences that was talked about there is such a normal thing now. It's also another part about this. People's lives have been changed. And the degree to which you guys are gonna find out the numbers, which you probably already know because it should have been talked about so much, is startling. So also CNN broke down a lot of while this is going on. There was pressure from More Perfect US there. And also, people are thinking, is this a midterms thing? Or you just wanna push this up for the midterms? Which I mean, I guess you could figure that as being a little bit of a catalyst here. But at least it's finally happening. Here's CNN breaking down what about the Biden administration doing this so close to midterms and potentially those effects.
What President Biden has just announced in the last few minutes is that he is going to pardon all prior federal offenses of simple marijuana possession. That is going to potentially affect thousands of Americans, and some estimates from the White House, about 6,500 Americans. In addition to Washington, D.C., the District of Columbia, this is going to apply to them as well. And in addition to this major step by President Biden, which the White House does say is in an effort to fulfill a campaign promise to ease violations on those who have been convicted of marijuana use, use. The president is also encouraging states and governors to do the same, to look at the same convictions in their states and potentially pardon them as well. And he is also instructing the Department of Health and Human Services and the Attorney General to conduct a review into what marijuana is classified as. Right now, as you know, it is a Schedule I drug that is higher than fentanyl, which has caused so many deaths and so many issues in the United States. And the White House clearly believes a review should be conducted, potentially a change made there. And this is a huge step by President Biden that he is making, just 32 days out from the midterms. And when we asked the White House, why now? Why this timing on this decision? They said it was in part because President Biden wants to fulfill that campaign pledge that he made, and also because it's a decision that he has been weighing for some time.
He's been weighing it for some time. He's looking to see when he can do it. Let's jump down to graphic 3, you guys, because they're breaking down exactly how this is all going down. But then this is where I think maybe many people will probably be surprised, but probably shouldn't, because of the numbers behind all of this and the rate of criminalization and how many people are in prison over these types of offenses. So every year, arrests for marijuana possession typically account for between, listen to this, 40 to 50% of all drug arrests nationwide. Imagine if that wasn't there. According to research compiled by the American Civil Liberties Union, ACLU, between 2010 and 2018, there were 6.1 million arrests in the United States for marijuana possession. And in 2018 alone, police made more arrests for marijuana than for all violent crimes combined. Again, more arrests for marijuana than all violent crimes combined. But they're considered violent crimes because of the level at which they've been scheduled for. The ACLU data also shows that these arrests disproportionately, of course, impacted people of color and low-income communities, serving to, of course, deepen existing structural inequalities. Another reason maybe why opponents of this don't want this to happen. If you're a politician and you're running off of tough on crime, I'm coming after those criminals, I put more people in jail than this, and that, I'm keeping the streets safe. If it's based off the 40 to 50%, or also the disproportionate number of folks you throw in jail versus actual violent crimes, then of course it's an easy label you have is fighting violent crime. As long as you label it that way, because you're in control of labeling those things. There's another aspect of this I think should be pointed out though, because we're talking about pressure from one, maybe an activist group, pressure from politicians or at least your constituents as you come up on the midterms. But there's also pressure from this group, the marijuana industry, who now, at least in Southern California, as it's legal here, you see a new dispensary pop up like 7-Eleven. I just saw another one yesterday after I saw another one a month ago. Every other corner, it's popping up because now this is a new industry. Now this is an industry where people can make some money legitimately. And after they make it legitimately, we're still got the people in jail who were just possessing it. Okay, so here's some details on that. They're saying this, today represents action from the administration that we've been waiting for. These are folks in this industry. An acknowledgement that cannabis prohibition has failed and that too many lives have been significantly impacted as a result. That's what David Culver, Vice President of Government Relations for Canopy Growth, said. Biden's proclamation has set into motion the actions needed to heal the harms of the past and chart a course for responsible legal cannabis markets in the future. 19 states and Washington, D.C. have legalized marijuana for adults over the age of 21, and 37 states and D.C. have legalized medical marijuana. These 5 other states, Arkansas, Maryland, Missouri, North Dakota, and South Dakota, they're gonna be voting in this upcoming midterm election to legalize marijuana for adults. So we'll see where that goes. But again, sure, it's a right move for Biden, but there's things that have kind of pushed in this direction. And of course, the timing is something that have to do with it, and also the industry as well. This is something where now the folks that can make money, as we saw John Boehner, who used to be a congressman, who was against all this, he got out and he got into the cannabis industry, and my man is rolling in his another kind of money. Completely severed from the things that he stood for before. When it comes to money, who cares? Now it's legal. We made it legal, them being legislators, lawmakers, and now let's go ahead and benefit from it. How about those folks that you put in prison? Maybe finally it's getting addressed a little bit. And if that does change, I doubt the level with governors that Biden's potentially asking for to follow suit. We'll see how many actually go that route as well too. It takes pressure from constituents. And again, I'm glad those 5 states are voting for it as well. We'll see where those results go. I think it might go in the direction that we see, considering this is not a black and brown thing, even though disproportionately that many people have been put in prison for it.